Welcome to the conclusion of the month of Resin, February 2022. We've gone over so much this month, but there's one thing we haven't covered. Basic maintenance. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, make sure you get subscribed. And of course, leave a like if you think we deserved it. I've got two OG LCD Elegoo Mars printers in front of me. One that was drop kicked and destroyed by Amazon, so it does not function whatsoever. Like the main cables torn off, the Z-axis is completely bound, the screen even came cracked, not broken, cracked. The actual glass on these was cracked. This one has a bad screen and a couple of other issues that we're going to take a look at. But if you guys stay until the end, I'm gonna show off some cool tools for Resin. They're gonna help make this job just a little bit easier. But we're gonna talk about maintenance today. You saw us do the FEP last week, and the 2 weeks prior, we went ahead and covered both UV tools and doing custom supports inside of Lychee Slicer with varying levels of effectiveness. But it's a really cool video series. I hope you guys check it out. We'll card to it so you can take a look. But maintaining resin printers is actually a little bit more difficult than you might think, especially if you're not using a flex plate. And if you are using one or looking at using one, let us know down in those comments who you're using, like what brand you're using. So we want to do a shootout video coming up soon for both FDM and Resin to see whose flex plates are best. And if you want, and you're shopping over at Wham Bam, you can use the code Musketeers for 10% off through May 31st of 2022. Full disclosure, we do get a cut of those sales. It's like 2%, I think, but it does help go to make the channel better, although I'm probably just gonna use it to buy stuff from Wham Bam. We'll card to the video where we hung out with Peter Solomon from Wham Bam, the founder, and talked all about the shop. First, we're gonna talk about the build plate. This one specifically is broken. Technically, it's trash, but I leave it onto an old printer just for, it feels good. This plate, no matter how hard you tighten it down, will spin during a print, which, while it does make for some really weird looking parts, I mean, take a look at that, the curvature in that. That is not supposed to look like that. And that is cool. It means that those failures are a little bit unpredictable. So you can't tighten the socket down to the ball as much as possible. Now, if you're working on a printer like an Anycubic Photon, the Photon Mono X, the 6K, many different manufacturers have many different ways of handling their build plates. I'm gonna go over the ball and socket type that Elegoo uses, because honestly, they're the most fiddly and can really be a big issue. When you are doing your bed level, there are two different ways you can do it. One is with the card that Elegoo gives you. Two is with the actual vat itself. I'm old school, I do it with the actual vat. I know you're not supposed to do it because it can, especially on mono screens where you don't have a nice piece of glass on top of your actual LCD, it can damage it if you have some little bits and blobs of parts still stuck in your vat. But you can use a fine mesh sieve to get that out when you're going through your vat. Or, we're gonna show you guys in a bit, you can use the tank clean feature, and that'll allow you to go ahead and rip stuff off. Hilariously, these two printers don't have that feature because LCD ones never did. Let's get some tools and let's loosen this up. All right, the first thing you're going to do is, with the printer off, go ahead and loosen the two bolts. Now, on the later versions of the Mars, especially on the Mars 2 Pro, and of course the Elegoo Saturn, of course the upcoming Elegoo Jupiter, these are not grub screws. On this printer, they are still the old grub screws. That does mean that they have a tendency to strip out. The newer ones are actually bolts, and they're a lot easier to work on. This plate is clean. I cleaned it before the shot. It is fully cured as well, so I'm touching it with bare hands. Resin is toxic, we know this, but this is okay. So you can see the plate is all wiggly. Now we gotta get ourselves some power. Gonna get it turned on here. We're gonna apply the paper. We're gonna go to Tools, Manual, and then Home the printer. Now you wanna make sure that your plate itself is reasonably square with the printer as well. If it's not, you might run into some problems. Be careful about that. Now, the big benefit of doing this without a resin vat is, of course, you can hold on to it as you go ahead and tighten the screws. The downside to it is if your FEP is thicker than the piece of paper that you're using, let's say you've changed it out with some non-standard FEP, you might have a problem. So you got to be careful when you're doing stuff like that. I am going the wrong way. We got them both finger tight. Let's go ahead and snug them up and click. Yep. Torque wrench says it's good. That's a joke. There's no torque wrench here. So now that we got it leveled, we're going to pick it up some. There you go. Paper comes out. For this printer, we're just going to hit up a bunch of times because we need to show you the screen. All right. We're going to pull the plate off. We don't need this anymore, but you do want to make sure that your plate is not loose. Once it is fully tight, if the plate still has an ability to spin, like this one does, you saw me tighten that. The fact that it can still spin here is a bit of a problem and has resulted in a numerous amount of failed prints, is what it is. Build plates are not too expensive for the Mars itself, so at least that's the benefit from there. We're going to then look at the screen. This screen specifically is suffering from a bit of peeling right there in the corner. We'll point at it. It's got a little bit of cloudiness right there. That does cause some failed prints. And last time I checked this screen when this printer was put away, it was a dead screen. The screen had some burned pixels. Hilariously, I checked it before this video, and it seems that putting it in timeout for a few months has solved that problem. Or I have more than one printer that I thought was broken. Who knows? We're going to go into System. We're going to go into Tools, Exposure, and then click Next, and it's going to go ahead and turn on the screen. And you're going to use this to look for dead pixels. You do not want to tank on when you're doing this. It's going to cause problems. If you have a newer printer that has the tank clean feature, use that. It is way easier to find dead pixels that way than this way, because as you can see, there's an area right here that is not letting light through. That is intentional. Elegoo did this way back in the day. I'm looking at it. Other than the peeling of the screen, I'm not actually seeing any issues. But given this was my clear printer, and the clear printer, the last print that it did was full of holes, I don't believe this for a minute. Let us know down in those comments if you want to see a video on replacing the screen. We're not doing that today. That will be its own separate video, because I think we're going to try to upgrade this printer to a mono screen, which would be really, really cool. The next thing we want to look at on the printer itself is the Z-axis assembly. It's really the only moving part here other than the noisy ass fan that is underneath them. Maybe one day we'll do a thermistor style fan for the Mars, as well as the Saturn, some of the other printers, but specifically this OG Mars, all of them. Their fans are so freaking noisy because Elegoo tried putting in the thinnest fan they could. You can see it right there. You can see the heatsink, the LED array, and then the collimator voice amplifier thing. It's so the light doesn't leak out. I don't know what the hell it's called. Someone smarter than me, leave it in the comments and, I don't know, pin it or something. We're going to make sure that the Z-axis is in good shape. And to do that, we're going to need our good old friend, sewing machine oil. Now, you can use the red high-temp brake grease, which I'm fairly certain is what was used on here. I'm not personally a fan. I prefer a light machine oil. I know some people are grease fans, some are machine oil fans. Fight it out in the comments. That one's up to you. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to lubricate the Z-axis, just like I'm going to lubricate you to learn about our sponsor, 3D Musketeers. I don't write these sponsor segues. This is just how it happens. Sometimes I'm sorry. If you want to get your ideas out of your head and into your hands with full art-to-part rapid prototyping and product development, basically you want to make cool stuff with 3D printers, CNC millers, and laser cutters, reach out to the pros over at 3D Musketeers. They have the tools, knowledge, and ability to help you get from art to part as fast as physically possible while staying well within financial budgets. They have almost 24 staff members here to help you make awesome every single day. From mechanical, electrical, industrial, engineers of all sorts, all the way to the weird guy talking to you now who owns the dang business, we've got what you need to make things happen. You can find out links and more about 3D Musketeers in the description down below. And if you want to support what we do here on this channel directly, you can do so at patreon.com/3D Musketeers, where you can kick a couple of bucks. Or you can join YouTube channel members, which gives you access to the super secret Discord, amongst many awesome other things. Anyways, let's get back to lubing up this printer. You're gonna add just a little bit. Now, on this particular machine, it has the rails on the inside of the printer. A lot of the older ones started using the actual linear rails, which is absolutely a better move than this. This system is, putting it nicely, freaking terrible. We're gonna put a little bit on the Z lead screw as well. We don't need a ton here. It has a pretty heavy oil on it already. We're gonna add a little bit on there anyways. So we're going to go to manual. We're gonna send it up a little bit. We're gonna get machine oil on our hands. That's fun. We're gonna send it up a bit. Make sure we get some of that oil on there. Oh, that's as high as it wants to go? Fine. We're gonna go ahead and send it home here. That's gonna hopefully run the oil through the bearings. Now, as it's doing this, I'm gonna add some there and some there, just a little bit extra to help out. This is going to help ensure that you don't have all that much friction inside of the system as it's running. Friction inside of resin printers is really dangerous. This one specifically was in real bad shape. The Z-axis does not move. The lead screw itself is bent a little bit, and it causes it to be 100% jammed up. It does not move. And if you have any areas where your Z-axis is binding up, that's gonna result in obvious print defects. We don't want that happening. So let's run it back up. And on the topic of bad screens, we'll have some pictures up on the screen so you guys can see what it might look like. But normally this is from just age. The screens, the FEP, and apparently the build plates are all consumable items on these printers. They're cheap for a reason. This stuff is designed to fail over a certain amount of time. For LCD printers, expect 200 to 500 hours. And for monochromatic LCD, the mono printers, that'll do 2.5 second layers versus 8 to 14 with these. Those you can get anywhere between 3,000 and 7,000 hours. Normally 5,000 is where people end up, but you have a much higher chance of breaking them because dropping your build plate onto the screen will absolutely result in destroying it, whereas on these LCD printers, not saying I've done it a couple of times, but I haven't broken one yet because of it. Although this one is broken from the factory, so I don't know, let's see. How hard do you have to hit it to break the screen? Safety glasses. We're gonna get some safety glasses before we try to break glass in here. I'll be right back. All right, buckled up for safety. Let's do dumb things. Whoa, that didn't break it. So there's already a break right here. Let's see if I can point that out on the camera. That little dot right there, that is where a break previously occurred. That was from when the printer shipped and the build plate did fall off it and shattered the screen. Let's try to do it again. Really? You gotta be. Boy, I'm going harder than paint on this one here. Oh, that did it. Yep. That did it. There you go. Takes a lot more force than you think. Now, mono screen, way easier to break, so be careful with those. We're not gonna be doing much more with broken glass, so we can set those off to the side. This screen was broken already. Don't pour one out for the homies. It's fine. But if you do have dead pixels on your screen, and you'll probably see it in your prints already, but if you do have dead pixels or areas where your screen is peeling or something like that, it's time to order a new screen. We'll have a video coming up, so make sure you get subscribed, where we try to upgrade one of these OG Elegoo Mars over to a mono, basically cutting the print time by 60% or more. So once we've got everything lubed up, you're basically good to go. There's not much more maintenance that you need to do on a resin printer. As long as your FEP isn't cloudy, which we covered in a previous video, as long as your bed is nice and trim and flat to your build plate, you're pretty much good to go. The one thing I will note is make sure that your printer itself is level on the surface it's printing on. As you can see, they have long screws for the feet themselves. if your vat is not level, you're gonna run out of resin in one area of your build before the other areas, which can be embarrassing. Not that that's ever happened to me. No, never happened to me. But I didn't want to leave this video off with just the basic maintenance, because it's pretty easy. Let's talk about tools real quick. These tools came from a recent podcast where we hung out with synthetic ephemera, Miss Aura. We'll card to that so you guys can take a look. And they are the queen of resin 3D printing when it comes to ball joint dolls. They recommended heavily some silicone makeup tools because silicone is softer than FEP. For a dramatic effect, we'll put a vat back on this printer. Probably should have done this with the broken FEP. That would have been cooler to see, but these makeup brushes, I guess, I don't know, I don't really wear makeup, are great for working in your vat. And you can see the FEP is being pushed down some, but we're not damaging it. If you were to do this with even a plastic scraper, you're gonna damage your FEP. Check it out. It's not damaged at all. Yes, it's dusty and dirty because it's been out here since the last shot. I don't use that vat. But these silicone makeup brushes, I guess, are crazy useful for this. They also recommended to get some plastic tongue depressors. Now, they really recommended the ones made of solid silicone, but I did not have good luck with them. I have much better luck with these really cheap plastic ones with one caveat. You have to go through and kind of sand off the edges. Some 150 grit takes that down, or if you got a torch, just torch the edge real quick and it smooths it right out. But these are, to me, are much better than using the dull plastic scrapers they come with. You can file down an edge and use it to pop a print off of the FEP without having any issues. This is also great for basic stirring, a little bit easier than using one of these. So good to have them. I will say, mark which side you have resin on, because resin is toxic, and I don't want you picking it up with your bare hands. 'Cause I think we both know if you go for one of these, you're probably not putting on gloves. Let's not lie to ourselves about it, okay? We can be adults here. Don't be an idiot, please. But these tools are awesome. I've been using some for quite some time. Mine are covered in resin and didn't want to use them in this video, so we went ahead and bought some more. And they're really, really cheap. We'll have links in the description if you guys want to pick some up. But to me, this is one of the most powerful tools for resin 3D printing because it just freaking works. For getting parts off a build plate without having a flex plate, I used sharpened metal spatulas. You might have seen these in our recent tools video that we did a couple of months back, so not that recent in terms of YouTube, but recent enough. And they make cool noises, so why the hell not? These are great, especially when you get them a real sharp edge to take the prints off of your build plate without leaving a bunch of random crap on that build plate. But realistically, resin printers are really easy to maintain. The hardest thing to get right is that bed leveling to the vat itself. It's why my preference is to have the vat in when we go ahead and do that level. You must be very certain, once again, be very, very certain that there is no particles of cured resin inside of your vat. And if you are not sure, don't do it. Because if there are, you're going to crack your screen. These lead screws plus the Z-axis can apply a metric ton of force, hyperbole, but it will be enough to break your screens, especially monos. Don't be that guy. And if you think you might have crap left in your build, a great way to get rid of that, especially on the newer printers, is to use the tank clean function. Get either a failed print or some broken support material that you might have laying around because you don't clean your workspace well enough. I'm not calling you out, you're calling yourself out. And you can activate the tank clean function. When you do that, take that broken model or the support, put it in your vat, then run the tank clean for 10-15 seconds for a mono screen and about 30 seconds for an LCD screen. When it's done, peel it off, let it drip for as long as you possibly can, because you're throwing away resin that is uncured if you don't. Then you take it, put it through the wash station if you want, or just hard cure whatever resin is on it, and then it's reasonably safe to throw away. Make sure there's obviously no raw resin because, as we know, resin is toxic. We don't want that to poison anything. But that is a great way to make sure you have no extra schmoo on the inside of your vat. Now, if you are feeling especially randy like Synthetic Ephemera, who adds in mica powder, glitters, and tons of other things, we'll have links to their channel, as well as a video that Tom Sadlatterer did on this exact thing down below as well. These makeup brushes are great for in between the prints. You can pause it, stir it up, let it go back again, or if you're looking to walk on the wild side, you can mix it once it does the pull. Just be careful. That's really it. There's not a lot to taking care of resin printers. It doesn't have to be difficult. The only reason it's difficult is if you make it that way. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for you today. Let me know down in those comments, is there anything that you think I missed? Are there any tips and tricks or materials that you like to use to make sure that everything is done right when you service your resin printers? Let me know. I'd love to make sure that we can cover it or pin it in a comment for future viewers to see. Anyways, stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. If you like resin printers and ways to keep them from running, make sure you get subscribed. And a massive thank you goes out to all of our patrons and YouTube channel members who are listed right next to me at the $5 tier and higher. Remember, if you want to join the elite group of Musketeers that help make these videos possible, you can do so at patreon.com/3dmusketeers or clicking the join button right below this video and help us out for a couple of bucks a month. If you're looking for something else to watch, right below me will be the entire resin series for February, where we covered Lychee Slicer, UV tools, changing your FEP, and now, of course, cleaning your resin printer, making it nice and happy. And right next to that is going to be the entire printer maintenance series, where you will find this video as well. I will see you guys down in those comments, and in the next one, take care.